let's be very clear, okay? This week and over the next several weeks, this is like going to make or break your portfolio, right? And I hope it's been a tremendous year for you so far, right? I hope you've made a lot of money this year, and you should have, especially if you're in anything that is, let's call it more growth-related stocks, the Teslas, the Metas, Shopify's, stocks like that, right? NVIDIA, AMD. You should be having a tremendous year this year. You should be making money hand over fist, right? If you're a short seller, maybe not so much, but I can tell you what's about to happen here is about to shift your portfolio in substantial ways. And I'm not talking small money. We're talking about huge money, okay? So, alrighty guys, let's get into this, okay? The first thing is, not enough people have been talking about this, okay? We just had a major U.S. official go to China. Now, this is the first time in years this has happened, okay? Years. We have not had somebody of this magnitude in China in years, okay? Janet Yellen has been in China. Now, she's just about finishing up her trip now at this point in time, and I can tell you, this trip went, this trip went about as good as you could possibly have hoped for, okay? Yellen says direct, productive Beijing talks are a step forward in putting U.S.-China ties on a sure footing. The U.S. and China have significant disagreements. Those disagreements need to be communicated clearly and directly, Yellen said in prepared remarks. But President Biden and I do not see the relationship between the U.S. and China through the frame of great power conflict, end quote. We believe that the world is big enough for both of our countries to thrive. Both nations have an obligation to responsibly manage this relationship, to find a way to live together and share in global prosperity, okay? I can tell you those words are absolutely massive because I can tell you the relationship between the U.S. and China has been deteriorating for 5 years now in a substantial way. It started with the trade war. That was the thing that really started to get things ugly. We had the trade war. Then after that, we had Rona. Now, there was a huge resentment from the U.S. side that China caused Rona, okay? And you might have that belief, you might not, whatever, okay? But the bottom line is, there's a lot of people in the United States of America and a lot of officials in the United States of America that basically blame that whole situation, the shutdowns, everything on what happened in China, right? So that happened, right? Then we had more scary commentary from kind of both sides back and forth for the last few years now at this point in time. So these are the two biggest economies in the world, right? And let's be honest, both are still kind of reliant on each other. And these ramifications, if the relationship's not good, it reaches the stock market. It reaches countless corporations because there's, many of our biggest corporations get substantial amounts of their revenue and profits from China. Okay, China also has a growing influence in other countries around the world. And if, let's say, U.S. and China are not, friends, or not very friendly, that causes a lot of problems. Then you throw out what's going on in Russia, Ukraine, right? That's a huge significant thing. And whose side is China really on in this? Are they trying to help Russia? Are they trying to play they're not really friends with either side, or they're friends with the West? There's that. And then you got China, Taiwan, okay? And so, nonetheless, folks, the last 5 to 6 years have been extremely messy between China and the U.S. China and the U.S. used to be very close, okay? As close as you could be, considering how different maybe some of our views are and how government should run and those sorts of things. But I can tell you the relationship's been awful for years now, and it's just gotten worse and worse and worse up until basically this week, okay? Now, noting that the overstretching of national security does no good for the normal economic and trade exchanges, the Chinese side expressed concerns over the sanctions and restrictions imposed by the United States on China, the same statement said. The two sides agreed to strengthen communication and cooperation on addressing global challenges and continue maintaining exchanges and interactions, the statement said. Okay. Now, this is going to if I had to guess, this is going to be a positive thing for the stock market. This does not mean we're out of the woods this week because we got some things that are arguably just as big, if not bigger, that are going to shift the stock market this week that we're about to get into. But what I can tell you personally, okay, is that trip Yellen just went as good as it could have possibly went. Okay, it couldn't have went any better than that. That was it. Okay, and so this, if you own any Chinese stocks, this is good news for you. Ultimately, at the end of the day, if you just are an investor in the markets, that's a good thing. China, Taiwan is an overhang over the stock market. It is something that scares people, that worries people, okay? And if it is seen as the US and China have a stronger relationship, then it's seen as it's not as scary because maybe communications there are better and maybe something won't happen there, okay? And so we'll see how things progress over the coming months and obviously coming years, but I can tell you this was the first step in a better direction for the two sides getting along, okay? Meta could make an absolute fortune off Threads over time. And you know what I'm thinking about? If you think about Instagram, right? All you have to really go off of for advertising, for the most part, is kind of what accounts people follow, pictures, videos, things like that. I think the data Meta's going to have from like word choice and things like that is going to be much better for advertisers because you're going to be able to know specific posts that people like around certain words that are used inside that post, right? Which is a little different than Instagram. Like obviously with Instagram people do kind of captions, but like that's like the afterthought. Like the video or the picture is like always the thing that people care about when they post on Instagram. So I think there's a way that they'll be able to monetize and get very high CPMs over time with Threads. Even if Threads never becomes a billion plus user platform, which we'll see if it does, right? Let's say Threads becomes like a 500 million type platform. I think there's still a way that Meta could make an absolute fortune from that platform over time because I think the ads that could be placed would be much higher CPMs than, let's say, traditionally on Instagram or some other socials that are more just photo-based or video-based. So that's kind of my thoughts around Threads there. We'll see, obviously, what happens over time, but, and I don't think Twitter's ever really monetized in the right way. I think Twitter's just always been a mess. Let's just call it what it is. It's always been a dang mess. I mean, Elon Musk is trying to fix the leaky engine there, or we can call it the leaky ship, okay? But nonetheless, Twitter's always been a mess. But the more I look at it, the more I'm like, dang, advertisers would be potentially willing to pay quite a bit of money for certain terms that people are using or liking and running ads against those. Yeah, we'll see if OpenAI is even relevant in 3, 5, 7 years. The more I've kind of seen experiments done with the product, the more I'm like, the product's not very good, just to be quite frank. I know people's expectations are really low, but the product's not very good. When you know a great product, when it is just like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Like you do everything on it and just like Google search is a good example. Like use Google search right from the go. It was like, oh my gosh, this is freaking amazing. YouTube's a good example, right? ChatGPT, I mean, you can use that for so many different things and just realize this is garbage. Like there's so many different things you can ask it that it's just like, it's not there. And it gives you an answer and the answer is not even close to being accurate, or it gives you an incomplete answer. Just a lot of things that I'm just like, the technology was way overhyped. It's probably one of the most overhyped products I've seen launched as long as I've been paying attention to tech for the past 15 years, folks. And so great products, you just like, oh my gosh, this thing's not gonna, ChatGPT's not it. Anybody that's really tried it for a lot, I mean, if you're not very intelligent and you need like, you're a realtor who needs like, oh crap, I don't know how to like write a description for Zillow, ChatGPT can do that for you, okay? And you might need like some mental help if you can't do that, okay? You can't accomplish that. You probably give up your job being a realtor. So it can do simple tasks like that, but the more you get into some of these complex things, you're like, oh my gosh, like this thing's not even remotely close. At the end of the day, it feels like a super, super beta product. The more you need it to actually do really high level stuff. It's like, this is not it. Anybody can do high level calculations. Any computer can do that. It's nothing new. It's been, those have been doing that for 20, 30 years. So I can tell you, ChatGPT, the most overhyped product that I've seen, I think something's going to come along that's going to be far better than it.